Thanks for the reminder.
Oh, I haven't driven this version of the track in a while with the chicane.
Yeah.
I like the endurance chicane so much better.
Definitely. I think it's the 24-hour one.
Yeah. Always forget just how wide you can go on the exit of that corner. Yeah, the Vector one. I love it when a car can go flat out through the Schumacher S. It's much slower than other cars that can do it, but it's still pretty satisfying.
Yeah, it's always like annoying when you get like you have to lift just ever so slightly.
Yeah. Because when you're driving most cars and you have to like lift and even brake a little, it's so tempting to try it, and then when
Yeah.
you do, you're just all over the place off the track and getting penalties, and man, I just want to go flat out here.
It's just like Tour Rouge and Radeon.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know if anyone else is coming today, or
Let me check after I do this lap.
this game definitely takes some getting used to after driving exclusively ACC for a while. It's like once a week I go back to this and I'm like, oh my goodness, it feels so different.
Yeah, same with iRacing. It's just a whole different beast in terms of like braking and everything else. Alright, let's check to see. think we're just missing Mason.
Oh, okay.
Or someone's joining right now. It's probably Mason. Nope, it's Dutrip. Alright, we'll give it like 2 more minutes and then we'll start.
Yeah, I was just gonna finish this lap. So I don't crash on the track walk.
It's very embarrassing. I've done that before. Or not a track walk, but a demonstration lap.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Turtle's gonna join us.
Cool.
I do enjoy how this car feels around this track.
Yeah.
The 2 turns after the Schumacher S, and then the 2 turns before the hairpin are like buttery smooth if you get them like perfect.
Yeah.
It's funny you're talking about transitioning off of ACC. One of the things that I find most difficult getting back into GT is just the brake force application.
Yep.
Like I have to just like remember to hit the brake all the way at 100 on the straight line, whereas like in iRacing you don't do that.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, you're used to iRacing and braking less. Yeah. You can get away with so much over braking in GT that like you just gotta slam the brake 100%. Like before you get to the corner. Anytime you're braking in GT7 and it's a straight line, it's gotta be 100%.
Right, because the ABS threshold breaks for you, basically.
Yeah, like going. Good. Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, like even in sections where like you would lock up in really like typical circumstances, like the going uphill into the corkscrew, like the braking zone of the corkscrew, you could just like mash the brake there, and like the car will just like the ABS will just prevent you from locking up still when it's like virtual impossible for an ABS to actually do that. Not in GT7. At least not anything that's significant. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure GT designed the braking to be that way because it's just simply more accessible for people to play a game where they don't have to really like think about threshold braking. And so like I get the design choice from like a game design perspective. Otherwise, I think the game would be too hard for most people.
Yeah, I actually found recently that even with ABS off, ABS still happens at low speeds. It's weird.
Oh, really?
Like from 10 miles an hour down, the tires will start spinning again.
Oh,
Like you
interesting.
can't actually physically get a tire to lock up from high speed to 0.
Hmm.
Very weird. But
Yeah.
I guess we could get started though if we got everyone here. Everyone just wants to finish up the laps that they're on.
All right, Toasty, you want to take it away?
Oh,
I think
that's...
Dutra's the only person on
Yeah,
track.
I didn't realize I was Dutra drifting. Alright, so do we got a recording?
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, so this week is a bit about understeer and oversteer, and then kind of transitioning to a more advanced topic, which is managing the weight transfer of a car and leading into trail braking and that kind of thing. So, building on previous lessons, so week 1, finding the limit of grip, week 3, finding a line through corner complexes. We're doing that a lot here. This track has quite a few of those. Week 4, maintaining momentum, keeping that minimum speed up. So building on all of those things. I've gone over quite a bit of the basics at this point, so now it's time to move on to more of an advanced technique. So, and that is blending braking and steering inputs to gain more rotation on corner entry, and also blending throttle and steering inputs on corner exits for the best launch out of corners, and generally just an overall finer amount of control throughout a lap. So we're going to go over some theory first to understand how we're going to achieve these things. We have to understand understeer and oversteer. So who can tell me what understeer is, just in a general sense? Basically, yeah. Right, so the front tires don't have the grip that you're asking of them, and the front axle slides across the track across the track with the steering turned past the limit of grip. So that's the front axle not having enough grip. How about oversteer? Right. So same with the rear tires. They don't have that level of grip available, and the rear axle is sliding around and starts to come around, trying to overtake the front sometimes, usually needing some counter steer to correct it. But what we can do in both these situations, in addition to driving at the limit of grip, is to smooth out weight transitions in the car to keep the car's weight where we want it to be. So essentially increasing the available amount of grip at the tire you need it most. So in order to grasp how that could work, let's just go over a bit of what contributes to available tire grip and how the weight of the car shifts in a corner. So the limit of grip a tire has depends on the compound. We're on sports hards here, so not much to begin with. How much wear the tire has, we don't have to worry much about that with our low tire wear here. It's temperature, which as soon as you're going through half a lap on these tires, they'll be up to temperature. But also, more importantly here is how much weight or load is on that tire. So you think about the weight of a car on its tires when it's stopped, no acceleration or braking happening, and you can kind of visualize how the weight is distributed on each tire. So in a car that has 50-50 weight distribution, for example, just keep it simple, the weight is it's even on all 4 tires. But when the car accelerates, you can see the camera pitches backward. Whatever viewer you're watching in, it might be helpful to look at the car from the side if you're able to, the camera controls. But you can see that the car pitches forward under braking and backward under acceleration. And a similar thing happens when you steer, so turning left, of course, the car leans to the right, more weight on the right side tires, turning right, more weight on the left side tires. So those outside tires are always going to be having more weight, more load on them. And in a car with a soft suspension, you can see the car lean quite a bit. So let's say going through this corner, this car, of course, doesn't have race suspension on it or anything, so you can see those effects kind of exaggerated compared to what you would see on a Group 3 car, for example. Let's say we're heading to this hairpin, the end of this acceleration zone, and when I brake, the car is going to dip and dive forward here. And then as I let off the brake and turn in, car leans to the left on those outside tires, and then leans back a bit on corner exit as accelerate out of the corner. And this is where things like trailer braking comes in, is slowly and smoothly letting off the brakes as you drive from the turning in point of a corner to the apex of the corner. And that's where generally trail braking happens, because as we were talking a bit about braking inputs before, it's 100% brakes until that turn in point. And most drivers, most beginners will say, okay, I've reached the point where I turn in, I'm done braking. And then they go right from 100% to 0% braking, and that weight shift happens very fast, and it doesn't really give the car a chance to settle when it's turning into the corner. So what you do instead is you brake 100% and then slowly let off the brakes until you get to the apex, and you can kind of think of it as a balancing act in the middle of the turn-in stage of the corner, halfway in between the turn-in point and the corner apex. You almost want your steering and your brake to be 50% of their maximum for that corner. So almost like two gauges you can visualize. 0% steering, now 50%, all steering, no brake, kind of a thing. And that's generally what you want to do for most corners that you need braking for, of course. And then for a late apex corner, it's not as effective. So you can kind of mix and match these techniques that you've learned over the past few weeks here. So why this works is you're slowing down the weight transfer of the car during the end of braking, and that keeps the weight over the front tires for longer and giving the tires that are doing the steering more available grip. So if you were to again go from 100 to 0% braking at the turn-in point, we'll just see what that looks like here. And you're turning and turning, and it just isn't as quick. It's a more subtle difference, but that slight that brief moment of the car not having that grip at the front when you make that quick adjustment from 100% to 0 braking at the turn-in point, that's what we're talking about. You see that little almost hop of the suspension at the front, and during that time is when you're losing potential rotation. And it's similar with the corner exit, because when you slowly go onto the throttle from the corner apex, to the exit of the corner where you're straightening out the steering, you're not only getting better traction because the engine isn't in the power band just yet, it's because the weight is shifting back onto those rear tires and giving you more available grip. So, does anyone have any questions about that so far? Anything you want me or Wonka to clarify? Yep. Yeah, so with the late apex corner, you want to be on the throttle before the geometric apex of the corner. So you're taking the apex later in the corner, and you essentially want to get the car rotated earlier. So you are, in a sense, doing some trail braking, but it's not the same as going to the apex. You're almost finishing your trail braking earlier, so in that sense the steering would still be happening, and the braking will have been done already, if that makes sense. But that's more of like a blending in two different techniques, and that's something that definitely comes more naturally with practice. But for now, this course doesn't have. I don't think it has any obvious late apex corners, at least. Maybe the final corner. But yeah, for now, let's just focus on visualizing those two inputs, braking and steering, and then on the exit, throttle and steering, and how they kind of flip-flop between each other. They're inversely proportionate, if you want to get that technical, I guess.
And Toasty, if you don't mind me adding a couple things.
Yep.
So the way this relates to understeer and oversteer is that when you're braking, or first let me preface this by that trail braking has little to do with actually slowing down the car while you're turning, and it has more to do with Toasty has been explaining is like you're keeping the weight of the car forward so that the front tires have more mechanical grip, which allows you to rotate the car more. And the reason why it allows you to rotate the car more is because when you have the weight on the front tires, the front tires have more grip. And so when the car is going through the corner, the front tires can grip more, and the rear tires will have less weight on them. And so they'll tend to start sliding earlier than when the front does. And so when we rotate the rear more than we do the front, that's when oversteer happens. So you're kind of inducing oversteer by trail braking, by keeping the weight on the front of the car. And then Toasty kind of hinted at this earlier, where the opposite happens when you start accelerating from a corner, because when you start accelerating, the weight shifts to the rear, and then the rear tires have the grip from the weight transfer of the car. And then all of a sudden, the front tires have less grip. So when you start accelerating, you start experiencing understeer out of the corner. And it's not immediately noticeable with this car, but like with cars with really soft suspensions, you'll notice this quite a bit. Like, you know, like the really old cars with the time trials on this game that they have with, like the car will like basically spin out if you try to brake and turn because there's so much oversteer. But then when you start accelerating, the car like never wants to turn, right? And the reason why that happens is because of the weight transfer of the car. And so we're learning today how to control that by being smooth with our brake inputs.
That's the key, is to minimize the abruptness of the change in where the weight is in the car, how the weight is shifting. And that's what allows you to really have that finer control of where the grip is that smooth weight transfer. So we can get on track and just kind of drive around while thinking of those concepts. I didn't want to do like a track guide or walk or whatever you want to call it right after that, without you guys getting on track and kind of experimenting with these things first, because I feel like that would just be a lot to throw at you at the same time. So
yeah.
Yeah, so don't worry too much about lap times, about corner per corner. We'll go over that in a little bit. Just kind of get a feel for modulating the brake pedal a bit. Obviously, the extreme example of the opposite end of the spectrum would be treating the throttle and the brake as an on-off switch, as if you were using computer keyboard arrows or something like that. make use of, really intentionally make use of the full range. Need to work on my middle sector. I'm losing 4/10 there to it was Wonka, but now Dutra. So we'll do a couple more laps here, and then we'll kind of work on combining this with previous week's lessons. Yeah, yeah, and that'll definitely come with practice, like building up that muscle memory of how it works. Probably just finish up this lap and then get to a bit of a track guide so that we have some time for some racing at the end. Went back to the garage and then realized I needed to be at the last corner. Okay, so if everyone can return to the pits and then rotate my car. Right, and then make sure you have the telemetry up so you can see my throttle and braking and steering. So, sector 1 here, we're starting on the pit straight. Want to be all the way over to the left-hand side, and then braking just before the, braking just before the 100 meter board. Alright, Wriggled, see it. And a good reference point is the end of this access road here on the left. So just before this grass comes up to the white line is a good reference point for braking. Down to second gear here, turn-in point is around about there, and then you can just about glance the red and white curbing on the inside, not taking too much because your car will start to bounce all over the place because of the sudden elevation drop there. But this is where it gets into the corner complexes of the first sector, the Mercedes Arena, I think it's called. So, bringing the car to around the middle of the track for the exit of turn 1, and then turning it in, the apex is around here. You can accelerate out in second gear. You can put your left-hand tires on this red and white curb and get away with that. And then this corner, staying in second gear, first gear is a bit too short, kind of straddling the red and white curb that time and keeping it over to the left-hand side on the exit because you have this very important corner here, the longer acceleration zone. The stewards really don't care about the white lines here, as long as you have your right-hand tires over the white line before this green patch ends or starts on the left, then you're okay with track limits in GT7's eyes. But continuing on here, so into sector 2, want to be on the right hand side, shift down to third gear, and a good reference point for the braking there is just about where the middle of this access road is, where Dutra is sitting on the right there, and then taking this in third gear, and then just a bit over to the left hand side, shifting down to second. And this is a corner where trailer braking is very effective, as is the next one here for the hairpin. So this one, braking just there. I need to slow down a bit more so I can see these braking references that I'm talking about. But this one is just in between this large patch of like paving stones maybe, and it looks like a drain. So just in the middle of that patch of grass there is where I usually brake. Down to second gear again, just kind of avoiding first because it's just so short. But geometric apex there, and then using a bit of the curb on the left. And then this is as long as you get the right line, easily flat out. You can use a bit of the inside curb to kind of lift the car up on the inside tires, and that will kind of help it to turn. And then this corner, these corners very important for consistency and lap time. Just under this banner here, watch out for the 100-meter boards. This is a very interesting quirk on this corner. The 100-meter boards are in different spots, so you can see there. We're looking for the second one just before the light green on the right is where you want to brake, and then this will be a third gear corner. You can use a lot of the curb on the inside and the outside, putting 2 tires onto the green if you're feeling confident there, and then quickly over to the left hand side, because then you have a right hand sweeping corner onto a long straight. Really want to prioritize this line here. And then easily flat through this corner. Hardly even a corner even in these cars, but braking just before this darker patch of track, and that will be at around 125 meters or so between 100-meter board and the 150. Just a little bit before that, actually, if you want to just make sure that you make this chicane, because if you don't, then the game will reset you, unfortunately. The chicane, you can really hop over these curbs as long as you have your 2 tires on the red and white. You can go over there just fine. Just be careful about braking or using too much throttle when you're going over them, because of course, like we've talked about, the more weight on a tire there is, the more grip it has. So if your tire's in the air, well, it's not getting any. And then there is a late apex corner there. I guess the only one of note on this track, because it goes onto the pit straight. I kind of sped through that one, so we'll go through it one more time a bit slower. So coming out of the chicane, you're then gonna want to use a little bit of curb. You don't want to be like all the way out here, because then once you come back on, it'll kind of unsettle the car with the amount of curb it has to go over, and that doesn't really, like, it opens up the line, but it doesn't really help in the end. So a little bit of red and white curb. And then this is second gear corner. The apex is kind of just after that pit entry wall. And then I guess the geometric apex would be right at the pit entry wall, but kind of want to avoid doing that because you don't want to be aiming for that. So kind of like the inside of turn 1 for Daytona Road Course, it's like, yeah, you definitely don't want to hit that. You could do that. Of course, at a certain point, like if you laid apex it and really, oh, what am I doing? If you laid apex it and like really focus on the exit, then you won't be able to go flat out through the Schumacher S. So I think it's just the car and the car combination where, like, usually, yes, you might want to do that because you wouldn't be able to go flat through there anyway. But yeah, it's an interesting point, is that the car choice kind of adjusts the line slightly. Anything else? Any other questions? Cool. so we can, yeah, we can drive a few more laps around here and really focus on applying what we've learned the first 5 weeks here, and really apply that to the line around the track here. Was that for the last corner you were just watching me, or? Oh, I don't know if I was doing what I normally do. I was,
Yeah, you want to brake a little bit.
That option.
For the last corner.